This is Renae Jacobs, the original voice of April O'Neil from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a few other characters like Lily, Fair and Orchid from Rose Petal Place, and more. So, you're watching In Conversation with ATF. This is April O'Neil for Channel 6 News. Signing off.
Hi everybody, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. My guest today is the final guest I have managed to get for my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection. You may know her as the voice of April O'Neil, Lotus Blossom, Jersey Red, and actually she just showcased a figure of Jersey Red in her latest live in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. April's mom in the 2012 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Lily Fair and Orchid in Rose Petal Place. She was the Lady of the Maze in season 1 of Masters of the Maze. She provided the vocals for Baby Glenn in Bride of Chucky, and has provided additional voices for cartoons such as It's Punky Brewster, The Glow Friends Save Christmas, My Little Pony, Moon Dreamers, Don Coyote and Sancho Panda, and many more. My guest is Renae Jacobs. Hi.
How are you? Nice to finally meet you.
Nice to finally meet you too. I said you're like the last person I've managed to get, because like I've got main 4 turtles. I've had Peter Renedy on, I've had Pat Fraley on.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic.
So I think you're the final main cast member. I can't reach anybody else. I think I'd like Jennifer Darling on, but I can't find a contact for her. But I suppose out of the main,
nobody knows what's gone on with Jennifer. I don't know. No one knows where she. I don't know.
Just dropped off the face of the planet.
It feels like it.
Yeah. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Just did 2 Comic-Cons back to back. I was in Rhode Island, which was insane. I've never been at such a big Comic-Con, and all of us were there. The 4 Turtles were there. Judith Hoag, Paige Turkle was there. Ernie from the movie. It was insane. We had our own little area, and the fans went nuts. It was incredible. And then the following weekend, I went to Detroit to do Motor City, and then there were 2 other Aprils there. There was Mae Whitman and Veronica Taylor. So we kind of had, all the Aprils, at least, the ones that I know of.
Yeah,
so it was fun.
Yeah, and the boys, all 4 of the Turtles are in San Francisco this weekend.
They are up there.
Renae, I'd love for you to sign my VHS. I got all of them to sign a Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles VHS when they all came over to England.
Yeah. So you know why it's Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's because the BBC thought Ninja was, very violent tone. No clue why, but so they all came over to Telford Comic Con, Wales Comic Con, Telford Takeover. I met them there. 4 of them. There's me there. So they were very lovely. I have to send you the photo, but they were very lovely guys.
Yeah, they're great. They're wonderful, and I hope someday to do Wales myself. I hope that happens. I had been in Africa, and then we had flown to London, and we were leaving on Tuesday, and the guys were flying in on Wednesday to do. It was just too long to be away, so I couldn't do it. I couldn't stay.
Right. Well, hey, maybe next time. So Renae, I've only got 10 minutes with you, so I want to ask you a few questions, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So, what was the audition process like for auditioning for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Well, everybody in Los Angeles, all the women, all the men that were doing voiceover were called in to audition for this show. Most of us had no idea what it was. A few of the guys knew because they were doing Fraggle Rock with Stu Rosen, who was the director, and he had shown them the comic books. And but I had no idea what it was. So your agent calls you and says, "Hey, you're going in to audition for something called the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles," and we all went, "What?" And so we show up, and there were, every woman who was doing voiceover was in the room, and one by one we came in, and Stu gave us how he wanted us to do the reading. We got to see a little pencil line drawing of April, and told she was, she was a reporter. And there were women that were reporting on TV. So you kind of got the idea.
Yeah.
Of, you had examples. And so the story is that I get the call from my agent. Okay, you got the part of April, go to the studio and record. So it was the first 5-part miniseries that we were recording. And I get into the studio, and in between the rehearsal and the recording, Stu Rosen came up to me and said, you weren't my first choice. Okay. He said, well, I played them everybody in town's audition. I didn't think you were right. Okay. He said, and they all said, no. And he said, well, I have this one last audition, but I don't think she's April. And I played your audition, and they said, that's April. It's like, oh my God, nothing like making you feel confident. So that was the audition process. And as far as I know, that story's true. And Stu Rosen isn't here to tell me whether it is or not anymore. He has left this planet.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the story. So you never know. Could have just been timing. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I'm so lucky and so appreciative of April.
I'm glad to hear that. And of course, you recorded Ensemble with it. You were voice directed by Susan Blue. She's up there.
Yes.
I met her. It was assisted by Cindy Akers. And of course, you met Rob, Cam, Barry, and Townsend. So what was it like, sort of like meeting those 6 for the first time when you were doing a session with them?
Well, it wasn't the first time. We'd worked together on different things.
Oh, right. Okay.
Were we good friends? No. Because you have to understand that the majority of the animation at the time was either mainly all women cast, like in the Moon Dreamers, we were all women. I don't remember. There wasn't a guy in the booth with us, or mainly all men and maybe one female character. So, you got to work with people, but we didn't work with each other all the time unless we were on a show together. So this was the first show that I was on that had a diverse cast, not just all women, not just all men, but we had worked together on like the Glow Friends and different things like that. Everybody, we're much better friends now than we were back then, because everybody was insecure and everybody had their lives, and it wasn't an environment in the booth of kindness and friendliness, not from the guys, not from the actors, but from the booth, from the inside the recording session, the booths. So, when they make you feel like you can be replaced, it gives a very insecure atmosphere. So, we'd record, we were friends, whatever, and then we'd all go on with our lives. But now, because of Comic-Cons, we've really become a family. We really care and love each other, and are there for each other. And it's just, it's a different environment. It's really lovely.
That's wonderful to hear. You discussed that. That's really beautiful. Now, Renae, I'd like to ask you some questions that you don't usually get asked by other people. That's what sort of makes my chats with people quite unique, because I ask questions that, aren't really that, on topics that aren't talked about. So of course, Rose Petal Place, you work with many people. Of course, you worked with Sue Blue. You worked with my hero, Frank Welker. What was it like exactly voicing 2 main characters on that series? I presume it was probably a breath of fresh air from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because like everyone knows you as April, but there's some people who know you from Rose Petal Place.
Well, we did Rose Petal Place before we did Ninja Turtles.
Oh, really?
We did.
That's me not doing my homework properly. Sorry.
That's okay. And Sue Blue was in that cast. Mm-hmm. I got to work with Marie Osmond, and she's lovely. And Frank Welker, hysterical, sweet. The guy is just an angel. He's incredible. He was the only guy, as I remember, the only man in the recording studio. He played Petey Centipede, and he was just hysterically fun. But all the other characters were women, Flowers and a witch, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I loved it. Most of the voices that I did before I did April were, little creatures of some kind, dogs and cats and fairies and pixies, and I did a princess, and French princess, but most of the time they were, little voices and funny things and that kind of stuff. So April was my first human character, which is pretty incredible. There weren't that many. Most of the animation at the time were all, strawberry shortcake and ponies and fairies and flowers, fruits and vegetables and things like that. So April was a great character, and I had no idea how great she was until we started doing Comic-Cons, when I've had so many women come up to me and say, if not for you, I wouldn't have become a doctor. I wouldn't have gone into the Air Force. I wouldn't have been a journalist. I might not have survived because my brothers were mean to me, but as soon as Turtles came, I could be April, and they changed their attitude towards me. So, and of course, all the guys come up and say, April was my first crush, which is very cute most of the time. Sometimes it's a little creepy, but it's okay. Rose Petal Place was lovely, but it was before April O'Neil. Yeah.
Neat. Well, I was wondering what inspired you to get into voiceover, because I believe you moved to Los Angeles in the early 1980s.
Nope, that's not true either.
Oh, Wikipedia. Blame Wikipedia. So how did you end up coming to LA?
I moved back to Los Angeles in 1985. I was living in New York. I actually lived in London. I lived in Manhattan. I was born in Chicago. I was raised in Michigan, and we moved to California in the 60s.
So you've been all over then.
Yeah. And I actually started in voiceover when I was 6 years old. We had a basement. In California, we don't have basements, but in the Midwest, you have a basement because there can be tornadoes and you have to go down into the basement in order to be safe. So we had a basement, and I had a little room that my parents had set up for me, as kind of like, let's get rid of Renae, we'll put her in the basement. And so all my toys were down there, and I had a couch, and I would line up my stuffed animals on the couch, and I would perform for them, and I would do all these voices. And one time my mom came down to the basement and thought there were people down there with me, but it was me being the voices of all my stuffed animals. And so she actually enrolled me in a class that was being given for children at Michigan State University. There was a woman who had a TV show for children, and she did puppetry. So at 6 years old, I went to Michigan State, and I learned how to open up the back of my stuffed animals and pull out the stuffing and make puppets out of them, and then do voices for them. And when the class was over, she told my mom, Renae is really talented. I'd like her to come on my show and then come with me to schools.
That's the second time that's happened, isn't it? on a Zoom. I've never really sneezed. Sorry. I can't hear you. My sneeze made you go quiet.
You can't hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. There you go.
I said...
I couldn't hear you again. I think it's the way you were talking that made you cut out.
Your sneeze came all the way across the pond and hit me in the face.
Sorry. I didn't hit my elbow. Where were we? And
I went and taught other children, but I think I was like 7 years old, and I would go to different schools and help her teach children how to make puppets and do voices. So that's how I started. And I really kind of and then through high school, I was doing voices for a theme park called Knott's Berry Farm here in California.
Yes.
And then in college, I sing opera, and my focus was more on opera and musical comedy, and so and Shakespeare. I studied Shakespeare at RADA in London, and so more classical training, and then I did New York, and then when I moved back to Los Angeles, my agent said, "We're opening up a voiceover department. Do you do voiceover?" I'm like, "Of course I do." And so, and so that's when I really started doing voiceover, when I got back to Los Angeles after being a kid. So.
Awesome. So, you obviously did you were the Lady of the Maze in Masters of the Maze. What was it like to do an on-camera role for you?
It was fun. Because I had, it was something else I wanted to do. It was a very cool little show. It was fun. I got to work with an amazing guy, really brilliant. His name is J.D. Roth, and he was the master of the master. He kind of coached the kids through the game. It was a game, like being in a live video game at that time, and brilliant guy. One of the shows, they decided to pull a fast one on him. He had cue cards. So, we all had cue cards. He had cue cards. So one of the shows, magically the cue cards disappeared, and he did the entire show without the cue cards, remembering the kids' names, to what happened next, where they were supposed to go, and the instructions. And so the joke was on everybody else.
Wow.
In the crew. Yeah, he was super brilliant. And I think he went on to produce a lot of other game shows and things. I'm not sure what he's doing now, but it was great. I had this big wig, and I had this makeup with these glitter, and once in a while I have somebody come and say, "Oh, I watched you on Masters of the Maze." Like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Did you see it? Have you seen any of it?
I've never seen it before.
It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. And it was, the beginning of video games, and it was like the kids were in a live video game. And so they had to go through this maze, and yeah, pretty low tech.
Sounds like fun. Sounds like a lot of fun, Renae.
It was.
So we have now come to the final question, the big question, right? And it is, Renae, would you like to continue doing voiceover? Because I've had a look at your credits, and you haven't really done any in recent years. Would you like to continue doing it, or have you kind of just retired, or what's going on now?
Of course, I'd like to continue it. So I have 2 children. I have been very involved in education. I developed a mentoring program that won an award and received an award from the President of the United States.
Wow.
I raise a lot of money for student scholarships for students attending the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, which is a world-class university where every religion and people from around the world go and study. And, what's going on now is pretty horrible. But I really feel that it's education that at some point, someday, may bring us to a place where we can all be together and learn from each other and appreciate each other. So I'm very, very involved in raising millions of dollars for scholarships for students of all ages and all races and all religions for that university. And so, and I travel all over the world. So lots of involvement in lots of things. But if somebody came to me and said, we want you to do this voiceover gig, I would do it in a second. I did the 2012 Nickelodeon. I did a movie that got all kinds of awards called Who Will Write Our History, which is a story, a Holocaust story of people who were recording their stories so that if they wouldn't be around, that people would know the truth of what happened during World War II. So yes, it's not that I've quit or retired. It's just, there's lots of things. I always tell people that life's a journey and you never know what road you go down. And you don't have to do the same thing all your life. So, opportunity is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I'm prepared, love the opportunity. So any people know how to reach me on Instagram. Happy to do voiceover.
Good on you, Renae. Good on you. Because I was really sad that you didn't return for Shredder's Revenge, the video game they just did.
I agree. It was foolish.
Why didn't they ask Renae?
I don't know. They're idiots. I don't know what to do. I mean, there's no reason not to. It would have been no big deal, and the fans would have gone crazy.
Yeah.
So hopefully when there's another video game, people will say, "Hey, get Renae Jacobs." It's like I said, it's pretty easy to find me. You found me.
Yeah.
Just go on my Instagram, and I usually respond. Sometimes I don't. I get too many messages, but I try and read them all, and and respond where I can.
Yeah, that's all right. And have you got a website? Have you got any other social media, or are you just based on Instagram?
Instagram and Facebook, but mainly Instagram.
Okay.
No.
Well, that's okay. I'll get that linked in the description for you. To you at home, thank you so much for watching this episode of In Conversation with ATF. It was lovely to speak to Renae Jacobs all about her Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles career and her other stuff that she's done as well. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I did filming it. Take care, stay safe, stay happy.
Wait! We're gonna do a big turtle power on 3, okay?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. That okay, right?
You ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Turtle power! Yay! And cut! Yeah!